Hello there, everyone. My name is Julie, and I just got done with the year as Challenge B Director and walked through the process of uploading our short story anthology to Amazon KDP. I saw a lot of people having questions, so I wanted to walk through how I did it with you and hopefully make your life easier. First of all, let's talk about the inside of the anthology. The inside of the anthology needs to be for Amazon KDP. I don't know about the other publishing websites, but it needs to be in PDF format in the end. But to start, you're going to use any word processing program. I have Mac Pages, and so I'm going to open up my Mac Pages and show you a few things I did there. So here I have my students' finished anthology in Mac Pages. Now, I decided to make my book 6x9. This is a very typical novel form sizing. You could make your book 8.5 by 11. There are many sizes to choose on Amazon KDP. The costs do increase the larger the size. So I went with 6x9. It's what I'm familiar with and comfortable with. It's what I would recommend. However, to do that, my PDF had to be 6x9 inches. So I would come over here to where it says document, and in any other word processing program, you would just go to your page setup or your document setup settings. And under document, I have the ability to change a lot of things like my margins. But sometimes to avoid that widow orphan where you have like one line on a page, I had to do a little bit of adjusting. To actually resize the whole document, I had to go under page setup under my file. So you're going to need to be in a couple places to do this. Now, this is already set, but if I wanted to reset it, I would go to paper size right here, and I would do a custom size. You'll see some pretty standard sizes, A4, US letter, which is the 8.5 by 11. So you can select from there. I did custom sizes and just put in 6 inches by 9 inches. I did have some margins here. They're set, and I could tweak them over in that other setting. So I did that setup. For my very first page, this is sort of important. The odd pages are your right-hand facing pages. So when you think about when you open a book, your eye kind of naturally goes to the right to get that first chapter or that first page or the table of contents or the title page, because the cover is usually your left. So the eye wants to gravitate to the right, which is why I recommend, if you can, to start new stories or new sections on a right-hand facing page. And that would be an odd numbered page. So the very first page is an odd number page. I put, as you can see here, a repeat of my cover design, which I just have as a JPEG. And I put that to be about the full size of the page, not quite. Remember, you're going to want some margins for binding and trimming purposes. So I pulled in from my Finder window. I dragged and dropped this image over, but if you need to, you can go to insert. There should be an insert image gallery. So I just drag and drop. Then the next page, which is the back of this, I left blank. So your even pages may be blank if you're trying to start new sections. Then I have my table of contents. I have a foreword. I have all my students' stories. I did not put page numbers on the table of contents. I just listed the story and the author just to give it more of that book feel. I didn't put page numbers on the table of contents because as you tweak things, those page numbers are being constantly shifting, and you're going to need to be sure at the end that you have the page numbers all correct. I took that off my plate. However, I do have page numbering at the bottom corner of my page. Feel free to not do page numbering, but to do that, you can just do insert page numbers. Okay, that was another right-hand facing page, and then I have a blank page because I don't want anything on the back of that. Then I have my foreword that took up 2 pages. It starts on an odd page and it continues to the back. And then my next odd or right-hand facing page is the cover of the first story. I know kids have to turn in an illustration and a title page. I put those both on one page in the end. I think it's great for turning in that they have separate pages for this, but for economy's sake and cutting down on the cost of your book, I just put those on one page. Several people drew pictures, so I put that there. Some people wanted some fancy fonts. You can do that. Just understand that when kids send you files with fancy fonts, you may not have those fonts. They may not be retained by your computer. So something to tell your students is that they probably should avoid all the fancy fonts. This student had a map picture. I was able to kind of put this fancy folded page look on it, but there's over here a couple of different things you can do with it. All right, and then the story begins. So I asked my students to send me their papers in Times New Roman 12-point double spaced. I ended up going down to 1.2 spacing. So to do that, I just select all the stories. You can select all in the edit menu up here. You can do select all, but that's going to change your titles as well. I did select all 12 point Times New Roman. So you have the font here, you have the size here. And under spacing lines, I did 1.2. I did 0 spaces before and after paragraphs. Now, that's just what I chose to do for consistency. You could certainly have more spaces. I wanted it to look more or less like a real book, so I didn't keep it double spaced. It also helped me save on pages. And then I just went through, did generally put about the author on a separate page. Again, I tried to keep the same format, about the author, picture, and then again with the Times New Roman. Now, here you'll notice that this ends on an odd page. So it ends on a right-facing page. I don't want to start my story on the back of this, so I put a blank page. And I started the next story on a right-hand facing page and went back and forth like that. So you're going to kind of have to decide how you want to do that. And then this person's story ended up on an even page. So that would be on the back of a page, the left hand. And so then the very next story is on that page. Now, this student, interesting, he took a photo in which he included the title of his story and his name. So I didn't have to do any typing there. You'll notice this is in color. So that's something else you're going to want to decide is whether you want to print the inside in color or in black and white. Again, printing in color on the inside is going to cost you a lot more. I did have to do a little bit of editing of typos and misspellings. I did a little bit of that. It wasn't terrible. Some people use clip art. Please be really careful when your students use clip art that they use them from free clip art websites. Otherwise, you're going to run into some copyright issues. I don't recommend it because it's just a copyright problem and we want to have some integrity there. Again, a lot of the students did their own drawings and sent those to me, and they need to be sent to you as JPEGs or PNG files in order to put them inside the Word document. When I was done, I took note of how many pages that this was, 108 pages. So having a page number at the bottom helps with that. I went over to File and I did an export to PDF. All right, that's the inside. Once I had exported that to a PDF, I just saved that as Challenge B, Short Story Anthology. And then I went on to work on my cover. Okay, the cover is a little bit more complicated because you're not just creating the front. You're actually, if you imagine a book opening up flat, you're creating that whole flat side because you're including the front, the spine, and the back. But what size does it need to be? Because there's all sorts of things with trim and margin and all of that. Thankfully, Amazon KDP has a very handy calculator. Once you're in kdp.amazon.com, you're going to be in your bookshelf. That's where you're going to be publishing. And you're going to hit create, and it's going to open up a new window where you're going to walk through, and I'm going to walk you through that in a minute. But before that, you do need to have all your cover and your inside done. So what you need to do is go to this tools and resources section, and you need to open up their cover creator. So right here, cover formatting resources, you're going to go to paperback and hardcover. You can also go to printing cost and royalty calculator. I actually recommend you do that first and go to their calculator, open calculator. I'm going to put all of these links in the caption notes. So you're going to select probably paperback unless you want to spend a lot of money on hardcover. I had a standard color interior. Again, if you want to save money, tell your students that you will not be printing in color. That's up to you. I decided to go for a little extra. The measurements are in inches. And then the final trim size, mine was 6x9. Remember, I want the final book to be 6x9. So you have to select your final size. If you went for something else, be sure your PDF is also that final size and that you select that over here. So a 6x9 book on Amazon.com, which if you live in the United States, that's what you're choosing. My book was 108 pages. You do have to put in a list price. It doesn't really matter. You're probably not selling these for a profit. I just put 10 bucks. It doesn't matter. And then when you hit submit, so this is telling me that my book is going to cost me $6.53. Now, if I went with black and white interior and I hit submit, you'll notice that my cost goes way down to $3.83. Okay, that's important. Now, if I had made my book 8.5 by 11, again, my cost is going to go up a little depending on whether I chose color or not color. Let's see what hardcover does. Just curious. For that one, it's going to go way up, and my list price wasn't high enough. So it's going to go way up to $11.33. So clearly a hardcover book costs a lot more. So you can play around with that and decide what fits your budget and all of that. It's a really good tool. I can't guarantee you that when you actually upload everything, that's going to be the exact price, but it's always been accurate for me. So then, having decided kind of how you'll do things, let's go over to the print cover calculator and templates. Again, you're going to put in all your information over here: paperback, standard color, white paper. I've already selected all of these. Reading direction, left to right, measurement in inches. I'm going to choose 6x9 again. My page count was 100. And this is very important because the cover changes every time you add a page or two. Then it's going to calculate the dimensions. And it tells you all of those dimensions up here, as you can see. And it gives you a little picture of where it's going to trim it, where the bleed will be, where the spine will be, how much space you have in your spine to write the title. Now, for most of our anthologies, the spine is so narrow that the text you would use for a title would be incredibly small. I just leave it off, to be honest. What I do is I download the template. So that downloads to my computer. And then I take that and I upload it to Canva. So this is before we even upload anything to Amazon KDP. We've done the inside, we've exported it as a PDF, we've found out our cover size. Now we're going to go to Canva. So you see there's a lot of jumping around. So switching over to Canva, again, this is already done, but I'll walk you through it again. So what I did in Canva is I first had designed my cover. Let me just show you that really quickly. To design my cover, I just went to the home of Canva and I selected book cover from templates. And it just gives me just an array of different designs and styles. And I just browsed and browsed and browsed and browsed until I found something that felt like my students. I'm not seeing the cover actually used, but as you can see, there's so many cover styles. Let me see, I can search further if I do pen. Let's see if that pops up. Here it is. I chose this one. I opened it up. I did a lot of tweaking to it. And then I saved that as another file and I uploaded it into my inside of my document. And then I uploaded it to my cover. So if we go back to the home, I will go back to where I did that. So you can see that this is an image that I had already created separately, and I don't really want to go into like design work and all of that because I just play around with Canva until I get something I like. And I did that. I then plopped it on this document that I made to be the size of my template. Remember, my template told me that I needed, if I go back here, that the full cover needed to be 12.493 by 9.25. So when I went over to Canva, that is what I did. Now, if you're wondering how I did that, you can just do custom size right here. And you'll see I just typed it in right here, 12.493 by 9.25. And I got the full size. But how do I know where everything is and if it will be in the right place? That's where I go to my uploads and I dragged and dropped my cover template in. It comes in a zip file, so you have to unzip it, take the cover JPEG out and put it into Canva. And this was mine. So I plopped it in here. This tells you everything you need to know about your cover. And what I did here was I put it in the corner and I dragged and dropped it to exactly fit the size. And I made sure, you see right here, 12.493 inches by 9.25. I made sure that whatever the template said, my Canva was set to that size. I drag and drop my template in, and then if I go here, I layered it, send backwards. Okay, I have to send it backwards a couple times. So I'm just going to show layers and I'm going to send it back behind. Okay. So you'll see that I have my text was in white, so I can't really see it. I'll show it to you. There it is, right? You'll see I want to avoid this yellow spot. I don't want to put anything here that I want to see because they are going to slap a barcode over it. So you want to avoid that spot. You want to avoid any of the pink dotted or solid lines. You do not want anything on that line that you plan to see. So you really want to center everything here. So I had to make sure that this was centered, right? Because it's going to trim it right on this solid line. And that pink area is like margin for error. Look how narrow my spine is. It would not be worthwhile for me to put something in there. It would be like 8-point font, 10-point font. Really not worthwhile for me. My kids had drawn a little picture. I put that on the back. I put a little summary of the stories on the back. I just kept it pretty simple. The best thing to do is keep your design pretty simple. If your students drew a picture for the entire cover, you can just stick that right in there. The difficult thing becomes when they do draw a picture, it's going to be like a block. So then if you have a pattern behind it, you're going to have this like very boxy look, right? So, and that might be okay with you. When you are all set, when you think you have all the elements in the right places, you can just delete that template and then share, download, switch this to PDF for print, select only that one page, and CMYK best for professional printing. Then you're going to download, that's going to download your cover PDF onto your computer. All right, now you have an inside. Now you have a cover. Now you're ready to upload to Amazon KDP. So let's head over there. What you're going to do is hit create. You're going to select paperback. And let's see. Now, something important about the book title. The book title has to be exactly what is on the cover of your book. It can be less than what's on the cover, but it cannot be more than what's on the cover, if that makes sense. I can't write any words into that book title that are not also on the cover. So pick your titles carefully. Ours is Anthromania, a collection of short stories. I just put by the CC Community of Manchester, Connecticut. Well, I didn't put that on the title, but you could just put title Anthromania, a collection of short stories, or I may have put that down here. It's not a series. I don't need an edition number. I believe I put Classical Conversations Manchester as the first name and last name. I did not include my students as authors, primarily because I publish my own things through my Amazon KDP, and I don't want to have all those author names attached to my account. And I don't think parents really want their kids' names all over Amazon right now. Description, I kept it super short. You're not trying to sell books to be on the New York Times bestseller list, so you do not need a long and lengthy description of what it is. I own the copyright. Again, this is why you need to be sure that your students are not using AI images, which we don't know who owns the copyright to some of that stuff, or images that they just grabbed off the internet without knowing where they came from. They need to be using free, royalty-free clip art because of copyright issues. And if you check that you own the copyright, you better own the copyright. So I own the copyright. There are no sexually explicit images and titles. Minimum age, I think I put, I don't know, it doesn't really matter. Maximum 18. You can do that if you want. It's optional. Primary marketplace, Amazon.com if you're in the United States. Categories, I think I put literature and fiction. You could put children's books. Literature and fiction comes with subcategories. There is short stories and anthologies. And so I just clicked both of those, save categories. Again, the categories aren't incredibly important unless you're literally trying to make a living as an author. You can put short stories, you can put classical conversations. This is to highlight the book's unique traits. It's not that important for the anthology. Publication date, release date are the same. Release my book for sale now, save and continue. Okay, at this point, I'm going to go back to my original bookshelf and show you. I'm going to continue without saving because I do not want to start an actual new book. So I'm going to go in here and I'm going to continue the setup of this book as if I hadn't done it. Okay, now I can't change this once I have submitted it for sale. Once it has been published, this cannot be changed. You'll notice this. So my book has been published. The book title cannot be edited. The subtitle cannot be edited. The edition number, the author number, none of this can be edited. I think I put everything that was on the cover for my description. I don't own the copyright because it's the student's stories, but I could say I hold necessary publishing rights. I'm actually going to switch that. There's no sexually explicit images. I'm going to move that down to 10. The stories are all perfectly fine. Edit categories. Do not select low content. You do not have a low content book. That is for like journals and things like that. Again, I didn't put in too many keywords. I'm going to save and continue. So now we're moving on to where you upload your actual files. Okay, you will select get a free KDP ISBN number. just take the free one. It's fine. I chose standard color interior with white paper, but if you had a black and white book and you're cutting down on costs, you would select that one. I can't change that after I publish either. I selected 6x9. I have no bleed. You want to choose bleed if you have images or illustrations that go off the page. So it kind of depends how you designed your book. Everything is easier without it. I chose a glossy cover. You can choose matte. I've done both covers. They're both beautiful. Then you want to upload your manuscript. That's the PDF file that you created of the inside story. Remember, exactly how it is on your PDF is how it will be in the book. So be sure that you have checked that all over. I do not recommend using Cover Creator for this. It's just not as user-friendly as I had hoped. I've tried it a couple times and I prefer to use Canva. You upload your cover file. That's a PDF. Does your cover include a barcode? If left unchecked, we'll add the barcode. Let them add the barcode for you because they're using their own ISBN number. Did you use AI tools in creating text, images, and/or translations in your book? I know a lot of students have wanted to use AI for their illustrations. I discourage it. I think it has complications and ethical considerations that we haven't worked through yet. But if your students have used AI, you are required to say yes to that question. My students did not. After that, I'm going to launch the previewer. So that can take a little bit of time. You want to launch the previewer. You want to look at what Amazon sees and really inspect it. It will actually tell you, mine has no problems because I fixed them all. It will tell you if it has spotted problems, but you can also look and see these red lines. You want everything to be inside. I like to look at thumbnail view so I can make sure that things ended up on the right-hand facing page like I wanted, and you can at a glance sort of see if for some reason you had duplicate things or extra blank pages you didn't want. When you're happy, you hit approve. If you're not happy, you can exit, change things, re-upload a new file, and do this all again. Okay, now you're done. You're going to notice that it says your printing cost $3.92. That's not your purchase price necessarily. Save and continue to pricing. Okay, so there's two things you need to know about pricing on Amazon KDP. Number one, you can get author copies for a lower price than your list price, but you will pay for shipping. There's no prime shipping on author copies, and they will take about 2 weeks to come in. So if you're in a hurry, there's another way to get faster shipping. All right, you can say all territories. You could do individual, just do all territories, Amazon.com. Here, it tells you that the minimum price that you can put this at, because Amazon is going to take a cut, is $6.53. So their minimum price for Amazon to make money off of this is $6.53. So I set mine for $6.53 because I don't want to pay more than I have to. If you were printing a book that you wanted to make money on, you might put this at $8 or $10, and then you'd make a buck or two. Notice the printing costs again. Your book will never cost less than that. So I put it for $6.53 because, again, like I said, there's two ways you can order, and I'm going to go through that. But let's finish this $6.53. It can take up to 72 hours for your book to be available for purchase on Amazon. You can request a proof. I don't do that. Then you hit publish. Also, ignore all those things for all the other Amazon things worldwide. I just let them be what they are. You'll notice that this says your paperback has been submitted and it's going to be reviewed up to 72 hours. However, I noticed that my book, they reviewed it and approved it within 4 to 6 hours. So you'll notice that the updates are in review, but because my book was already approved before, the old version, which is the same as this one because I didn't really change anything, the old version is live. And when the new version is approved, it will switch them out, although there's nothing to switch out. This is kind of like I faked Amazon out here. I'll show you how to do your ordering now. When you are approved, you'll see that it just says live after that. You're going to go over here to paperback actions. Right now, I actually can't do anything because it's in review. That's right. Let me go to another book that I print. You'll see where it says order author copies. You'll notice that online, if people order this book online, it's $5.99. But if I order author copies, I can get author copies for much less. I'm going to order it from Amazon.com and I will add it to the cart. I can order as many as I want at a time. So if I add those copies to the cart, you'll notice it says $246 per book with a charge of $3.59 for delivery. So remember I told you, if you order author copies, it is cheaper, but you will pay for shipping. And the more books, the more you pay. and it will take a very long time to come in. All right, I don't want to order this book right now, so I'm going to delete it and go back to Amazon KDP. That is how you order your author copies. Again, takes time, you pay for shipping, you probably will save $10. The other way to order books is to go directly to Amazon, where Amazon is selling your book, just like you would order any other book. And you're going to order the book at the full price that you set it at. That's why I set it at the lowest possible price. You will get Amazon free shipping if you have Amazon Prime, and it will show up in, depending where you live, maybe 4 days. Depends where you live, depends where things are in production, but it's much, much faster, and you get free shipping. This can be great if your parents want to order extra copies, if you have people that you maybe need to just send them their copy directly because they're not going to be around the day that you celebrate your copies. So you just go right to the listing, put it in the cart, order, and go. I hope that this has helped you learn how to create and upload and print your anthologies on Amazon KDP, and I wish you the best success.